Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Marcinet, President and Founder of MRM EAM Consulting, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Jazz Sidhu, Senior Maximo Consultant. We're excited to introduce one of our MRM Essentials accelerators, purpose-built tools designed to simplify Maximo administration, boost productivity, and extend the value of your Maximo managed environment. Today's focus is our Database Query Accelerator, a tool that enables Maximo administrators to run queries directly from within a custom Maximo application. You might ask, why is this important? As many organizations upgrade to mass manage, they're also moving to IBM SaaS or third-party hosted environments. In these setups, direct database access, something administrators typically had in on-premise environments, is no longer readily available. Yet, there are many cases where a Maximo administrator, a DBA, or your SI needs to query the database to troubleshoot data issues, extract information, or even perform targeted updates or deletions. This need came to light during a recent client engagement. The client encountered a data issue and a documented IBM tech note which required executing a query to identify that malformed data and a delete statement on how to correct it. However, because they were using a third-party SaaS provider, they had no direct database access, not even read-only. As a result, we had to open up a support case with that vendor, have them run the query, wait for the results, and then submit the subsequent delete statements to be executed by that vendor, which should have taken minutes, ended up taking over 5 days due to back and forth communication and approval delays. That experience inspired us to create this accelerator. Sure, we could have used MX Loader, but this still requires time in creating the right object structures, updating the template, testing, a lot of steps, and something that, again, time is not something that we always have on hand. Our Database Query Accelerator eliminates that overhead. It's designed for Maximo administrators and SIs who need to quickly run ad hoc queries, run select statements, and analyze the data and make informed decisions. It also supports controlled update and delete operations, though we've deliberately excluded inserts for safety reasons. And Jazz is going to explain that shortly. This tool bridges a critical gap created by the shift to SaaS, restoring the agility administrators once had in on-premise deployments while maintaining security and governance. I'm going to turn it over to Jazz, who will walk us through how this solution works and how you as a Maximo administrator can begin using it effectively. Jazz, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. So like Mike mentioned, this need came to light when we started working with clients that are hosted on a SaaS environment. I'm going to walk us through an example of running queries, performing updates, and deleting records directly from our custom app. From there, we'll take a look at how we can extract the results of a query from a CSV file and get it emailed directly to you. After that, we'll chat a little bit about some cool other additions that we have in this app. We'll have more of a conversation on that in part 2 of our video. I'll jump right in and show you guys just a work order tracking record. I'll go ahead and click on that logs tab. In this example, we're going to be querying the work log table, and we're going to be performing an update on this work log, and then eventually we're going to delete this work log. So go ahead and click on that title over there, which shows us it's stored on the work log table, and the field that we're going to be targeting in our update is going to be the description. We'll go ahead and jump over to our application now. And for those of you who are wondering, how do we get to this application? It's going to be stored under system configuration, right there, query database. And we've done this deliberately to make sure that this is only going to be accessible to administrators. No end user will have it, just the administrators. And the people that should be performing these queries are the ones that are going to be performing them. From here, we'll create a new record. We'll call it worklog SQL. We're going to be performing query, update, and delete on worklog table. From here, I clicked that lookup on the from field, and you can see that it brought a whole lot of different tables up over here. This will be all of the tables that you can query from. In our case, we're going to go ahead and choose that worklog table. And then this query join field is if you want to do any joins. So if we want to join to the work order table and see information related to the work order as well, or maybe we want to do any other join, we want to see the person record, we could join to the person table. It's just a very easy way for you to get related record data as well. Just like what you would have access to in SQL Developer, you're going to have access to that over here. You're going to have the same functions. You can use things like order by, group by, joins, and select star, as well as aggregate functions like sum and others. In our example, we're not going to use this join. We're just going to stick to the select, the where, and get this query running off. I clicked the lookup on the select field, and you can see it brought up all of the attributes on this table. It's only going to show you the persistent attributes, as you don't want to query non-persistent attributes. From here, I'm going to go ahead and choose the few that I need. I'll choose class, created by, and record key, and description. From here, after I've chosen a few, I can also add them in manually if I wanted to, or I can choose it from the lookup. Let me give you an example. So let's say we want to add create date, and then I'll go ahead and write my where clause. From here, we can write the where clause if we're familiar and we know how to do so, or we can use this conditional expression builder. From here, you'll see all of the columns you have access to over here, as well as what you're already used to when you're working with conditional expressions or launch points in automation script. You have this as well, and a few other places in Maximo. In our case, we're just going to say record key is equal to 1000, and you can also type as well. Site ID is equal to Bedford. From here, we can validate our expression, and we'll go ahead and click OK. It'll automatically copy over the where clause that we wrote. From here, I can save the record and just take one quick look before we run this query. We started out by entering what table we want to query, the select, and then the where. One thing I didn't mention is this type. By default, if you guys noticed, it was already populated to query, as most of the time we're going to be running queries. However, you do have access to a few other things, such as update, delete, and then a special one called table. We'll talk about this special one in part 2, but just know it has some really cool functionality, and we extended this app to give administrators access to SQL-based reports as well as quick queries to just give them some insight and get them emailed off to end users. From here, we got everything ready. I'm going to go ahead and execute that SQL command. And just like that, we have our output displayed in this table. So we could see that MRM Essentials must have products is the description. From here, we want to update this and we want to append by now. After we've run a query, we can then run a subsequent update statement. Now that we've already built the where clause, we can be sure that this is the record that's getting updated. As when I switch this to an update statement, you could see that the where clause remains unaffected. As long as you don't update it, you can be sure that is what you're going to be updating. From here, the join has now disappeared, and this is now called set. It's no longer called select. That's because we're going to be setting that description column. I'm just going to append by now at the end of this, and we're all good to go. I'll go ahead and click execute SQL command, and this will initiate the update statement.
Jazz, I'm panicking. I'm a manager. You're updating my data. I'm concerned that you may make an error. And again, you may have made the error in SQL Studio or SQL Developer, but how or what do we have put in place to ensure that it is auditable? It can go back and track, understand who did it, what changed, and when did it change?
That's a good question. So we have a few different securities we have it set in place. The first thing was that it's only available to administrators. It's not available to everyone. That's why it's set in system configuration. The second thing that we have available is, let's say we're doing an update statement. We didn't mean to. We meant to click query or something else, or maybe we didn't validate. When I go ahead and click this, when you see, do you have a database backup? This should trigger some red alarms in your head. Do I have a database backup? Am I sure that I want to do this? If I go ahead and click no, it's going to tell you that a database backup is required to perform an update or delete statement. The next thing is that everything you do when the type is update or delete, it's going to be audited. It's going to get tracked in our audit table, including you backing out. This statement is also getting audited. It'll tell us who was making this update or delete statement and exactly what update or delete did they make. When I go ahead and click execute and I click yes, I have a database backup, you can see exactly what update statement ran in the backend. This is what's getting logged in the audit table, who did it, when did it happen, and all the other subsequent information.
Jazz, to jump in, why that's important. So obviously we have an audit trail that is being put into the A_ table, which is the common e-audit capabilities with inside a Maximo. Having that update statement also allows the person that's performing this work, they likely might have a ticket or a case that has made the request to update this data. They can now take this string and push that back into the support case to say that it is completed.
Exactly. And go ahead and take a look at the work order and just see if it's been updated. We'll have to jump back to the list view, refresh the record, and click on that logs tab. And you can see that by now was appended to the end of this. We're going to go ahead and just do one more thing, and we'll change this from an update to a delete. And one of the things that we're going to notice is this set field is now going to go away. And if you're coming from query, it's the select field. That field's no longer needed, as when you're deleting, you're not deleting specific columns, you're deleting the whole row. In our case, we know exactly what we're deleting. It's the same where clause. We ran that query for validation, so we can be sure that that's exactly what we're targeting, and that's what's going to get deleted. From here, I'll go ahead and execute this SQL command. And once again, it's going to ask me that same thing. You have those same precautions that you did with update. It's going to ask you if you have a database backup, as well as everything you do here is going to be audited. So when I click yes, this delete statement is getting added to our audit tables. We have a cool example in part 2 of our video where we're going to show off this audit table and how it looks like. So stay tuned for that.
And Jazz, just to jump in here quick, we had a select statement, we had an update statement, and those are two common ones. Delete, again, some organizations might be a little bit concerned about that. Rest assured, we have the appropriate audit tracking enabled so that we can see who did what change and when and what that change was. But what's important to know is sometimes it deletes there. The driver behind us developing this tool was an IBM tech note to correct a location hierarchy, and there was a select statement followed by a delete. So sometimes they have to happen. This is something, again, we can control through our security and the Maximo security and SIG options if you want to eliminate that. But again, it's a powerful tool that allows you to do this. And what I also want to bring up is you'll notice that insert's not there. And the reason being is typically when you're inserting a record, there might be the parent table followed by some children table that have to get updated. And for that, we want to make sure people are inserting records correctly. If you're adding an asset, adding a location, adding a PM, we want to make sure that it is going through the Maximo business objects, and that's where tools like MX Loader can come into play. But for deleting, you may wish as an organization to use MX Loader for that, but this would be a time saver. And we also want to make sure that as an administrator, we understand by deleting that table, in this case, the work log, there are no other related tables. Sometimes users or administrators forget when deleting statuses that there is maybe more than one table. There's the status on the work order itself, and then there's a work order status table or WOL status table that also needs to be updated. So there is still some ownership from an administrator that they need to make sure that they manage and are responsible for.
Exactly. And just whenever you're doing an insert, it's generally best to do it through the UI when you can, or MX Loader when you're getting it from a different system, or in other cases like that. Just to show off, we went ahead and we did that delete statement. So when we refresh this, jump back into the record, there should be no work log. Update and delete are working just as we want. And that query tool, we were able to query this work log, take a look at it, and see all those records. So I'll jump back in over here, and we're going to do just one more thing. We're going to go ahead and query this work log table, but instead of querying just record 1000, we'll go ahead and query record key like 100% and set ID is Bedford, and we'll select a few columns.
So Jazz, what about if I don't want to go through all those columns? Can I not just use a star or an asterisk?
Yeah, you definitely could just use stars. So we'll go ahead and do that actually. We'll run this query, and you could see that when you have more records than space on the screen, it's going to do the exact same thing that you're used to with SQL Developer and your other tools. It's going to create those scroll bars, and same thing over here. So you'll have all that data. You'll have all of the columns coming over here. And if you want to have this exported as a CSV, you just have to enter your email over here and click Export Data. And what I'm going to get in about a minute from now is an email with this as a CSV. And this makes quite a handy tool because you could use this as a start point for MX Loader sheets or any other case that you would need a CSV.
And Jazz, maybe while we're waiting for that email, just if you can scroll up, I just want to maybe highlight again a couple of things. The concept about this application and the flow of this application is similar to how you would type this into a query tool like SQL Developer, SQL Studio Management Studio, Beaver, lots of different tools depending on what your preference is. Select star from, then a where clause behind that, from an object, and then a where clause behind that. It really is to give you that look and feel. We give you lookups to help those that maybe don't necessarily know the table off the top of their head so they can search and filter it. On the where clause, you have the query builder so that you can still use the query builder and validate your query structure before you execute it. Obviously, if you execute, it will tell you if there's a syntax error, but we're giving you all the tools and capabilities that people are familiar with in Maximo already. It's not new. The learning curve is very quick. So
Exactly.
let's check out that email, Jazz.
Awesome. So here's the email. You can go ahead and take a look at the CSV file as well. Just brought over everything just as we expected, brought over all my records just as I wanted, and you could see that it got emailed off to me in just a moment. So just to wrap up, we showed off how to query, update, and delete, and also chatted about our audit tracking capabilities and some additional securities we put in place to make sure that you're not performing updates and deletes when you're thinking you're performing a query, and also so that it's only given to the administrators. Not everyone will have access to this tool. Additionally, we showed off that CSV files, and one of the things that we're going to chat about in part 2 is how we can get these tables directly embedded in emails and how we can enhance our out-of-the-box COM templates, as well as a few other cool things. So stay tuned for part 2.
Jazz, fantastic work on this solution. I'm really excited to get this into the hands of more customers. For those watching who are interested, please don't hesitate to reach out. Jazz and I would be more than happy to walk you through the tool or the accelerator in more detail. The best part, it can be deployed in just minutes. Whether you're running Maximo on premise or in a mass SaaS environment, we use the proper deployment methods to implement it quickly and securely in your system. Once again, Jazz, thank you for the excellent demonstration. I hope everyone found this session helpful, and we look forward to sharing more on part 2 of our MRM Essential Solutions and our DB Query tool. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.